Greetings, I'm Mike Pachelli, coming to you from my studio in Nashville, Tennessee. And for this segment, I'm going to talk about how I record the electric guitar. Now, as guitarists, we're always on the search for the perfect tone. And one of the most important things about getting a great electric guitar sound is to keep your fingers on the fretted note as long as possible before you go to the next note. And what I mean by that is, say for instance you're playing this F and you're going to go to G. The longer you can hold the F down continually, actually, to get to the G, the more tone you have. If you cut off the F and go, it's less tone. But if you can hold that F down and get to the G, there's more tone in there. Same thing when you're going from string to string. If that G rings out a little longer when I get to the B flat, there's more tone, especially when you're playing quick. The other thing is a pick. I've experimented with so many picks over the years, and I'm lucky enough now that I have a V-pick making a Pachelli pick, but I encourage you to experiment with picks. The pick that makes you have the softest attack, you can play lighter, will give you the best tone. That's what I found. All right, enough of technique. We're going to really talk about equipment here. Of course, your guitar is very important. I have a vast array of guitars. I'm very blessed in that way. I seem to gravitate towards this this guitar all the time. This 335 60s Gibson. I love this thing. It has a lot of sound. But from my guitar, whatever guitar I'm using, we go to my pedal board. And on the pedal board, I have an array of Overdrive pedals. There's an Ethos, there's a Jetter, an MXR, there's a fuzz face. From my fuzz face, I go into a analog delay pedal, from the delay pedal to a chorus, from the chorus to a reverb pedal, and then a volume pedal, and then to my amp rooms. Now, again, I do a lot of recording, so I have three different rooms where I can record my amplifiers. One is a small compact room, which I call the amp room, and in that room there's three amplifiers that seem to be able to do, just about everything I need them to do. One is a 1967 Fender Princeton Reverb. The other is a 1965 Vox Super Berkeley tube version, and then a Marshall JTM 45. Those three amps seem to be, my go-to amps to get just about any tone I'm looking for. So that's in my amp room per se. Now, every amp has a different microphone on it, and I could combine those, but I've narrowed it down pretty much to my favorites in this video. So on the Fender Princeton Reverb, there's a Sontronics Delta, and there's a Sennheiser 421. Then on my Vox Berkeley, there's an SM57 and an SM58. And then on my Marshall JTM 45 Plexi, there's a Sennheiser 906 and also an AKG D112, which I find to be a secret weapon for a Marshall 412 cabinet. Those mics are all coming through my mixer here, which is a Mackie Onyx 1640i, and I have them through channels 11 through 16, which equals 1 to 6 in my brain, because I happen to know what microphones they are. So I'm able to just basically play and switch to whatever amp or microphone I want. And then it's great with combinations, because you can use perhaps a closed mic on the Sontronics Delta, and then maybe use the 906 on the cabinet as a room mic. So I have that going for me. I also have a bigger room, which is kind of vocal booth and drum booth, and in there I'll have another Princeton Reverb most of the time, and I have a 67 Deluxe Reverb, and I can mic whichever mic I want to use for those applications. And also a room mic, which I can put up, high in the sky. Perhaps like I'll use a Neumann 184 or something like that, or maybe an AKG 421 or a 414. or even sometimes a Neumann U87 for the room mic in there. Then I also have the Great Room, which has a few, custom amplifiers here and there, and I can close mic, or I can mic the room and mic the ceiling. The ceiling is 15 feet, so I can go to the top of the ceiling if I want a room sound. So, pretty fortunate that I have a lot of different possibilities. But I do gravitate mostly to my small amp room because I like the tight compressed sound. It's very soundproof, and the close miking works for me. If I use a room mic, I'll affect it later with some reverb or something. But those are my basic rooms where I'm recording at. From there, it goes to these racks behind me. The mics go through the racks, and my main compressors that I use are a Universal Audio 1176 and also a UA LA2A, which I use in an insert channel for the most part. If I want to add a little other compression. My main guitar compressors are these DeKing's 91579s, and they're just fantastic for guitar recording in general. Because of the threshold is just so amazing. It's so variable. If you don't know, threshold is just the point at which a compressor starts working. So you can set it wherever you want. Now for my guitar, I usually set it at -2 to minus, all the way to plus 10 really dB of gain reduction. And that's very, very, very usable here. And then the other thing that's very important is the ratio, setting the ratio properly on the compressors. And usually for my guitar, I'll go from 2 to 1 to 4 to 1. And if you don't know, what ratio is for every 2 dB set above the threshold, 1 dB will be outputted if you're at 2 to 1. And then you can do the math at 4 to 1, etc. But really, you just let your ear be the judge when you're getting a tone. You just start messing with it. And then the attack is important. If I'm doing something real percussive, I'll have a very fast attack setting on the DeKing. And the release, if I want a lot of sustain, I'll have a slow release. If I want it to be more percussive, I'll have a fast release. So those are very important. And they're going through this La Chapelle, also 992. So it's going through the board, into the amps, through the mics. Mics come into the La Chapelle 992 preamp, to the compressor, and then into the mixing consoles. Okay? So that's my signal path. It's kind of complicated. But what's so great about it is I can just sit and I can say, okay, Princeton reverb, and now I'll go. This is the Princeton reverb, just with the Sontronics Delta, which is a ribbon mic. So that's my sound there. Very nice. Just clean, and there's no EQ on the board yet. I can EQ if I want to do that. So I'll look for my clean sound first all the time. Now I can take the same amp and say, okay, that's the Princeton reverb, and here's the Princeton. I'll dial up this time just the Sennheiser 421. It's a lot thinner, see? Here again is the Sontronics. Here's the 421. Combination is nice in stereo. I can pan one to the left and one to the right. Pretty nice clean sound, right? Just pretty flat. Well, my amplifier settings, I should say, I usually start with the volumes on 4, treble 7, bass on 3. On the Marshall, the middle will be at 5. A little reverb on the Deluxe and the Princeton. Okay, so that's my clean Princeton sound. I can go, okay, I got a Vox here. Now here's a Vox, the Berkeley, with a SM57. Well, we've all heard that sound, right? Or here it is with an SM58. So now I got a nice comparison. If I can go between the Princeton Reverb Delta to the Vox 57. It's very helpful getting a tone. Or you could combine. I could say, let's use the delta as a room mic. You know. All right, and then we have, of course, the old standby. We have the Marshall JTM. Now here it is with the 906. You've heard this clean sound a million times. And here it is with the D112, the AKG on the bottom. Combination of the two is very nice. Now I should note too that all we're hearing back is from the Proax right now. We can't hear the amp rooms at all. It's kind of really wonderful to have that amp room with a Marshall, you know, cranked halfway, and you can, you know, it's gone. I mean, if I play it without the speakers, you can hear more of the guitar than you can actually hear the amp room. All right, so right now I think I'm liking the Princeton reverb. So we'll go back to the Princeton reverb now, and just here's the ribbon Sontronics Delta. It's a lovely sound, isn't it? Very clean. And now I can mess with the compressor. Once I decide, okay, that's my sound I'm going to start with, I'll get to the compressor. First, maybe I'll take the threshold down to -6 and see how that feels. It feels very loose, kind of sappy. So maybe let's just for the sake of it, I'll take it all the way up to +6 dB on the threshold. That's where the compressor will start working. It's a lot tighter, maybe too tight. So somewhere in the middle, we'll go like, well, let's go +2. So the compressor isn't hitting as hard, as fast, and the guitar feels a little, you know, not too floppy, not too tight. Now the ratio is something else too. Right there is the normal 2:1. If I take it up to like 10:1, you know, and see how it flattens out. So that's too tight. So 2:1, 3:1. Now if I want to try something drastic, what I'll do is I'll insert, like for instance, the 1176. So I'll go to the back here, and I'll insert that in here. And now we can really mess around. Say for instance, we'll do the old push all the buttons in of the Universal Audio. Give it the old pump sound. All ratio buttons in now and a clean sound. It's really made it a lot of pumping sound. You know about the attack on the 1176? Like when you go 7, it's slow. And when you go 0, it's fast. It's kind of backwards. Let's mess around with that. That's just too tight. So I'll go about 8:1 ratio on that. So now I have that in the insert mode. Let's add a little noise, but hear the compression? That's a lot of compression. So maybe make it about 4:1 on the 1176. That's nice. Very smooth, able to, it's going to allow me to play smooth. That's because the compressor is working just perfectly for a combination of my hands. Now say, well, let's put the 421 back in there because it's a little mellow. So I'll take the 421, add a little high end, maybe widen them out a little bit, a little left-right panning. Makes me want to play. All right, well, let's take that out of there though, because that's a little overkill. Let's pull it out. All right. Right, now we took the 1176 out of the insert channel and go back. That's a little floppier, but the reason being is because I'm going to add some overdrive now. But I always get my clean tone first, because I think everything comes from the clean tone. All right, now we'll switch the jetter on. Right here, and give it a little overdrive and see how we're doing. And that's just causing havoc. It's too loud. Everything is just too loud, so we're going to go to the jetter, bring down the volume, the level in general. So I just brought the level down of the jetter, more controllable. And that's because the clean sound was, so favorable to my technique that as soon as I turn on the an overdrive pedal, which is just overdriving everything, it feels like it has the same vibe as clean, but now we've got an overdrive sound. Put a little delay in there, because we all like a little delay when we play lead, right? And once again, if I want to compare, I can say, well, how's that sound with the Vox? Here's the Vox. How about with the Marshall? This makes you want to play. But I'll go back to my my trusty Fender Princeton reverb and if I turn that off, I've got my beautiful clean sound still. So my advice is get a good clean sound. Now my setup is elaborate, I realize, and you may be watching this and don't have such an elaborate setup, but the point is you get a clean sound first. Mess with your pedals to get the sound not too floppy, just tight enough so it accentuates your picking technique, right? Get it clean. Mess around with different mic combinations, room mic, close mic, whatever it is that you like. And then when you get a really clean sound, then put on your overdrive and just inch it in ever so slightly so that you're still using your clean technique to get a lot of tone, but the overdrive just gives it that extra, that ballsy thing that we all try to do. So that's how I get a guitar sound. I hope it's been somewhat helpful. And if you'd like to drop me a note, you can do so at MikePachelli.com, because it's always cool to hear from you, and I'll answer every email. So until next time, I'm Mike Pachelli, and thanks for hanging out with me.